in South Montgomery, meeting in North Montgomery the night before. I'm gonna die before this is over. I hate going to talking to people anyway.
Is that broadcasting now?
It's broadcasting now, yes.
Okay.
So, and that's what I'm worried about is if you saw the ads on TV and on the newspaper and everything else, Rodney had an opponent in his primary, and that whoever's I think it's the gambling people are sponsoring him. They buried that guy with all kinds of negative ads and that kind of stuff, and that's probably going to happen to me too. So I just want people to be aware of what we may get into. Okay, welcome to First Universalist of New Madison. What to do with my computer? If you want to stay afterwards, we'll.
There's a settings over here. Something up on management.
After church, we'll start.
I don't know anything about it.
Well, the guy from India is pretty sharp.
Yeah.
I just can't, I have to write it down or video what he's telling me to get through. What we're discussing is welcome to New Madison. We're trying to get our Facebook page live. Last week, the camera shut off right in the middle of the service. We don't know why. So I'm trying to get it hooked up with a computer with a better camera and a better sound system. And I'm hoping I can run the sound system through the computer to the headphones so then people can listen and not have that delay in there. So we'll just have to see what works out. Okay, any announcements? Okay, I made my announcement that I'm running for the District 40 in Preble County for the state representative, so we may get a lot more attention than we probably deserve, so we'll just have to see what's going on. I just didn't want to surprise anybody with that. All right, our prelude, Darn That Dream. We're going back to Jimmy Van Heusen from the 30s and 40s. They don't do music like that anymore, unfortunately. The headbanging stuff is just, it's in a whole nother league. All right, did everybody get the heads up on what the topic is today? Evil. We're talking about evil. The reason is because of recent events, and I talk about these every week. It finally dawned on me what is actually, what is behind what is going on in the world. And I didn't want to start out with anything too scary, so I started out with hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. The Muppets will put you on the right path every time. And then to get more back to reality, this is kind of what we, as with a Christian culture and Christian heritage, think of the cause of or the basis for evil. All right, our chalice lighting. Oh, actually, we have a scripture, Zechariah 7, verses 9 through 10. This is what the Lord Almighty said: administer true justice, show mercy and compassion to one another. Do not oppress the widow or the fatherless, the foreigner or the poor. Do not plot evil against each other. Zechariah 7, 9 through 10. It couldn't be any plainer than that. Our chalice lighting is by Kenneth Warren. May we come into this building hallowed. May we come into this building hallowed by generations of thoughtful worship. May we come into the company of this congregation enlightened by reason and moved by concern. May we come with open minds and warm hearts. May we here cultivate a confidence that human intelligence and human affection can temper and ultimately overcome cruel circumstance and misguided malice, with faith in the power of good over evil. So may we find both our social responsibilities and our individual salvation. We may have to read this one again occasionally to remind us where we are and who we are and what we are trying to do. Our opening hymn is number 44, Sing of Golden Mornings. We sing of golden mornings, we sing of sparkling seas, of prairies, valleys, mountains, and stately forest trees. We sing of flashing sunshine and life-bestowing rain, of birds among the branches, and the springtime come again. Our affirmation is a few notable quotes on evil. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Edmund Burke, that was in the 1800s. The world is a dangerous place to live, not because of the people who are evil, but because of the people who don't do anything about it. Albert Einstein. Evil is ignorance, by an unknown quoter. People who claim they're evil are usually no worse than the rest of us. It's people who claim that they're good, or anyway, better than the rest of us, that you have to be wary of. Another unknown. All right, joys and concerns. As is per usual, we'll light a candle for our unseen, unknown, unattending friends, relatives, colleagues. Haven't heard anything this week. Did anybody else get an update? So hopefully everybody's doing okay. I haven't heard from Margaret for a while, so hopefully she's doing okay. And I don't know what to do about that. I guess we could try sending out emails to them and just ask them how they're doing. We may look into doing that. I went down to visit the one gentleman, I can't remember his name now, who was Gordon, who had been in Puerto Rico or Virgin Island, Costa Rica. And he was well settled where he was. He didn't show any interest in continuing his relationship with us. So we're not going to push anybody on that. But we want people who need a church home, a church community, a church family to know that that is available here if they want it.
I'd like to point out also, our neighbor across the street here, Nancy Rexroad, passed away on Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
She was very active and long-standing community member. Her family, I believe, had a celebration live, a funeral on Saturday for her, but just to point that out. That
Nancy Rexroad?
Rexroad.
Rexroad.
Rexroad. Right across the street here.
Didn't see her out sweeping the porch or raking leaves, so.
Been active in the community, but not always active around her home.
Around the house. Okay. And funerals, Tara had one yesterday in the rain, and she had another person in the congregation die this morning, so she'll have another one this week. She informed me that Sarver, the funeral home in Pleasant Hill, not Hale Sarver, I can't remember the guy's name. He was there for years, retired years and years ago, and then Sarver, the one in West Milton, bought that one, and they bought the one in Covington. They've closed both that. The service she did yesterday at Pleasant Hill was the last service in that funeral home. They closed the funeral home in Covington. That was the same people, and the reason is people are not having funeral services anymore. It is really, I have been astounded by the number of people that I know who have died, and there's no service. They just announce the death, and you can send greetings or condolences or flowers to the family, and usually they pick a charity that the person was connected with, but there's no actual public service.
There's also then a church funerals direct, which bypasses a lot of the.
Yeah, that used to be the standard for church people. You didn't have a funeral at the funeral home. The funeral director did the embalming and the casket and arranged everything, but the funeral itself was at the church. That's the way we always did it in every church that I've been in. But the point of the funeral is it doesn't matter whether it's at the funeral home or the church. It's not for the dead person. I mean, they don't care. It's not necessarily for the family because they've already gone through the grief. It's for the people who knew that person, the friends, the relatives, the work companions, the people who knew them from just shopping at the store. We've lost the same way we've talked about this before. The Kiwanis, the JCs, all the volunteer groups are losing people because people don't seem to want to get together. They talk to people over their computer or over their phone, sometimes miles and miles away, and they don't create a local community. And I think that's kind of how we ended up where we are now in our civilization. We're right in the middle of this transition. If you can imagine what it was like to be a farmer in the 20s and 30s when you had horses, but everybody around you was driving a tractor. The tractors just looked like they were a lot more practical. Or when you were in the 60s and 70s and 80s, when your dial-up phone became a problem and everybody had a little flip phone that they could pull out anytime. We're in the middle of that transition period, and we haven't found what the answer is yet to create and hold a community. That's the reason church attendance has gone down. People don't feel the need to come to church anymore. So it's a question we don't have an answer for, but we'll probably keep looking. Russia and Ukraine. Russia killed over 100 people in the last 2 days in Ukraine. And interestingly enough, Ukraine launched over 500 drones into Russia and actually bombed an oil refinery in Moscow. The analysis I heard was this is beginning, the Russian people are beginning to find out what war is like. Before it was Russia was overwhelmingly taking apart the Ukrainian people, and the Ukrainian people have stood up and not buckled. And now with their drone technology, they are beginning to strike back at the Russians, and the Russians are beginning to find out what war is actually truly about. So it is not a turning point, but it is a leveling off, I guess you would say, of the teeter-totter. It's no longer tilted in the direction of Russia. So it'll be interesting to see. The sad thing is people get killed on both sides, innocent people who have nothing to do with this conflict and have no interest in prolonging the conflict are the victims. The other one is the standard Israeli-Palestinian, now Lebanon. I talk about this every week, and we will have, actually I'll show you the latest picture from Lebanon. Can you see what's going on there? An Israeli soldier with a statue of the Virgin Mary putting a cigarette in her mouth. And there was a report this morning on the news. That soldier was reprimanded by his commanding officer for doing that, and the person who took the picture and published it. It's not so much that insults like this happen, they happen all the time, but the fact that they are photographed and then spread on public media so everybody takes part in it. Our children's story, which I will do next, is another example. That is partially what inspired our consideration for evil. As I've mentioned this before, the Jewish people of particularly Germany and Europe, Eastern Europe, went through such horrendous suffering, and where the Jewish people have a history of being the victims, the people who stand up to harsh treatment and segregation and abuse, and still keep their head held high and keep their pride and keep their sense of reality toward other people. How it has happened that Israel has come to this place where the settlers abuse Palestinians, I'll save that till I get to the story we're going to do. Our president went to China. I don't know what you thought about it. It was pretty much an embarrassment for me. And things were set up. The Chinese are not, they are very clever people. I'll show you a picture later. I didn't have it here, but if you're interested in it, there's a picture when Xi, whatever his name is, the Chinese leader, is sitting in a chair and Trump is sitting in a chair. Did you notice the chairs? Trump's chair is 3 inches lower. And the guest, to subtly, left-handedly insult the guest, they put him on a lower chair. They led Trump where he had to climb a huge number of steps, and that was on purpose. He had to stop and rest in the middle to embarrass him as a weaker person. The whole intention of this entire thing was to show Trump as a weaker. And he even talked about the Thucydides, which was when one nation becomes weaker and comes up against another nation, conflict is possible. We know the nation that they consider weak. And Trump came back with he went to China thinking he was going to get some kind of great trade agreements. They agreed to buy 200 Boeing planes, or originally they agreed to buy 800 Boeing planes. They agreed to buy more soybeans. They agreed to do that 6 months ago, and they've not bought more soybeans. We are being taken to the cleaners by what is going on here, and the people who support the president seem to be totally ignorant of what is going on. It's sad. It's a sad situation, and going to get worse, I think, before we get better. So we light a candle for our nation, for our democracy. There's examples every week. It's just like a shotgun. You can't keep track of the little pellets that keep hitting you because of the things that keep going on. The latest one was the Trump family has made like over 1,000 stock trades in the last few months. They bought a lot of Boeing stock right before it was announced that Boeing would be selling planes to China. It's just over and over and over again. Trump is now suing his own IRS for billions of dollars because he said they wronged him because an IRS employee released his tax returns. The government which he runs, is going to give him billions of dollars. I mean, it can't be, it's just unbelievable that this is going on and nobody's saying anything about it. So, all right, one more candle for all of those hopes and dreams and perhaps cries for help that we do not hear. We are here to help if we can do anything to help you. All right, the children's story. You have to read along on this. This is an
בגדול, עוד פעם, זה מעניין לי את הריכוז משהו לאיש חמאס הזה. אני כל הזמן זוכר, קודם כל הדבר היחיד שמבחינתי בעיה פה, זה שזו לא איזושהי מדיניות מוסדרת של המדינה להתעלל בעצירים. כי בגדול, זה גם קודם כל מגיע להם, זה אחת הנקמה שאנחנו צריכים לתת להם. ודבר שני, אולי זה גם ישמש אותם קצת יותר כהרתעה.
I'll give you if you didn't follow along with the writing, Israeli soldiers, they were reservists, but they were still in the IDF. Israeli soldiers sexually tortured with a broom handle, a Palestinian prisoner. It was on security tape in the prison. It was on the tape and it was viewed. An Israeli prosecutor saw that tape, had these 5 soldiers or 6 or 7 soldiers arrested and charged with cruelty toward prisoners. The Israeli public, the Israeli government, everyone, and not everyone, and you heard the people saying shame, some people are still righteous people, complained and said they should be allowed to do whatever they want to the Palestinians because of what the Palestinians did to them, the eye for an eye type thing. They fired the prosecutor who brought the charges. There are demonstrations. There was a demonstration at the New York Times office in New York because Nicholas Kristof, a Times opinion writer, wrote a column that said it was shameful that the Israeli government was supporting and actually released the 5 reservists charged with this crime and on video performing the crime. And they wanted the journalist who reported the crime to be arrested. They are basically, the government, the people of Israel are supporting torture of prisoners. And not only torture of prisoners, the pictures I showed you of the last week, I showed you the picture where they pulled down the statue of Christ being crucified. They insult the Virgin Mary. It's not just Muslims that are being insulted and harassed, it's also Christians. The Christians in Jerusalem are afraid to go to the Christian church because of the harassment they get. And yet, the American Christian churches are totally behind the support of Israel. We may spend a week going through the money that flows to Israel, how much money is there. We've talked about that before. They have free education, housing subsidies, free health care. That's all paid for by the American taxpayer. Israel does not have an economy big enough to support all that. That's money that America gives Israel. People think it's just for defense, but we give them billions of dollars that's used in many other ways. So, let's go on to what we're going to talk about here. What is evil? For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. Good exists. Is evil the opposite or the absence of good? Is evil an active demonic force? Are people born with a sense of good and evil, or is caring behavior learned? Remember the Good Samaritan? And why is that a parable to remember? Why is it so prominent in Christian teaching? Because it is an unusual act of kindness. So rare that Christ used it as an example of how we ought to behave. And that example, and more like it, fostered a worldwide following who faithfully believed in his teachings some of the time, when it was convenient, when the Pharisees weren't watching. If we learn good through teaching, through parables, through education, do we learn evil by watching? When dad hits mom when he's angry, did that teach us to use a slap to get our way? Threats to get obedience? We were spanked when we broke the rules. Inflicting pain is a righteous teaching method. Is that the origin of might makes right? Is that how we come to believe that killing 200 South Americans by blowing up their speedboats is a modern method of drug enforcement? Who taught us that saving money by curtailing prescription expense, by closing hospital baby birthing, by dragging out insurance permission for cancer treatments until it's too late is a Christian act, is a Christian way of behaving? Is that what Christ taught us to do? Let's look at the animals. They even kill their own, as the lion who takes over the pride after a defeated rival will kill the cubs of his predecessor. But do they kill for the reward of killing? Do they humiliate, insult, or torture? You might say cats toy with mice. Is that evil? Do you have to know you are doing evil to be evil? Do you have to revel in the suffering of others to be really evil? There are 4 major root causes of evil, reasons that people act in ways that we think are evil. Ordinary, well-intentioned people may act evilly when they follow these paths. First, greed. They want something that someone else has. We've all heard those stories that greed is the origin of evil, that wanting something, and even the 10 Commandments tell us not to desire something that someone else has. The second one, threatened self-image. The fancy psychological term is malignant narcissism. You question what I say, that means you are a dumb, stupid piggy. That anytime your self-worth is questioned, you respond in a terrible, still going?
Yeah.
Okay. You respond in a negative, and we've seen an example from the highest podium in the country. Anytime someone asks a question that is not preferred or not a positive question, they are basically insulted, called stupid, called piggy, unheard of in polite discourse before we came to this time. A true marker on the descent that we are following right now, and the fact that everybody, not everybody, but most people, no one says anything against this. People will say it against like me here, and you'll find an occasional columnist, but there's no general uprising, no general saying, this is a terrible way to behave. You can't talk to people like that. It started when the one reporter who was handicapped asked him a question and he made fun of his handicap years and years ago, and that was let pass. I have no idea, and when we talk about evil, and that's one thing we need to consider, 30 to 35 to 40% of this country still supports this situation. Is that evil? When you support an evil person, are you evil? Are you enabling evil? What does that make you? The other one is justification, possibly confused good intentions. The end justifies the means. Sometimes bad things must be done to get a good outcome. It's called collateral damage now. A targeted, convicted enemy has to be stopped before they transgress again, so nearby innocents must be sacrificed. Women and children die along with the target, sometimes lots of women and children. If you remember the original strike on Iran in Tehran to kill the Ayatollah, they bombed a meeting that was taking place because the Ayatollah was under the understanding that they were about to negotiate a peace treaty. He had all his advisors and their families there to celebrate the oncoming peace and to work out what their position would be. The United States bombed that meeting totally by surprise with no declaration of war and killed not only the Ayatollah, but also all the women and children and the advisors. And you remember the president saying, we want to talk to the next leaders of Iran. Unfortunately, they're all dead. We went down 3 or 4 layers because they were all in the same meeting where we killed everybody. No apology, no regret. That's just the way it is. I mean, it's not the way it's supposed to be. Sadism. Some warped souls actually derive some sort of satisfaction from inflicting pain, from insulting people, from denigrating people, from making people wear shoes that are too big for them. I can't wrap my head around that. Give somebody a pair of shoes that are too big and then make them wear them in public, where they take pictures of your feet, tiny feet in a big shoe. I don't understand that, or I kind of understand it and I'm sickened by it. A twisted, malformed personality from birth. You've all seen many stories of cats set on fire, dogs tortured into fighting, biting tools of intimidation. And what about the carers who leave animals or even children to starve while they live their unconcerned life in the next room? On TV all the time, the family who sits in the living room and eats pizza while the 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 15-year-old children are locked in a bedroom, living in their own feces, starving to death, and some actually starve to death. How can people do that? Is it a malformation? Is it a sickness? Or is it evil? Supposedly, only 5% of the population is that disturbed. I hope that would be the case, but I am not so sure. What courses through the senses of the drone pilots who routinely blow up the speedboats, the cars, the apartments, multiple targets of no known guilt? What is that pilot of the drone who enlisted in the Air Force or the Army and is blowing up a car that has a targeted terrorist in it, but also all the members of his family? Is it impossible to find that terrorist by himself or just with other terrorists? Or anytime you have an opportunity, no matter who's with him, you blow him up. And that kind of is what it seems to be. Does doing something you know is illegal and wrong because you are following orders expunge the responsibility? Not for some in Nuremberg, if you remember World War II, but a different story for those in Israel. IDF, Israeli Defense Forces, routinely participate in war crimes in Palestine and Lebanon. 100 medics killed in Lebanon in the last month. 100 medics killed, and it almost seems, and I believe they are being targeted. If you eliminate the medics, the people who save lives, more people will die. You remember I told you about the Israeli woman who said children grow up to be terrorists, so it's quicker and easier to kill the children now. That is the mentality that we are dealing with. Have you heard the story? Captured on security cameras, raping with broomsticks, arrested. The Israeli prosecutor who brought charges was fired. Demonstrators, as seen here with the thing I showed you, including in the US in front of the New York Times for an editorial against torture. How do the victims assume the guise of the perpetrators? Have any of you seen the movie The Man in the Glass Booth? And that's what this picture is from. It was a book written by a man named Shaw, and it was made into a movie in 1975, 76. I saw it when I was living in Indiana. That was before, no, it had to be before that. It had to be 72 or 73, because it was before I was married. I went to the theater and watched this movie 3 times. One Jewish millionaire Holocaust survivor is kidnapped by the Mossad and taken for trial in Israel as a masquerading Nazi camp commandant. His trial in the glass booth reveals finally that he had falsified the clues and the trail that led to his capture. He was a survivor of the Holocaust whose guilt at having survived led him to create an elaborate hoax to expiate his overwhelming guilt of living while so many others had died. This gentleman lived through the Holocaust, lived through a fake firing squad, became a rich New Yorker, made lots of money, but his Jewish guilt, and I'm sure all of you have heard of that, was so great that he created false dental records, false histories, false trips to Argentina, and then clued the Mossad in that he was actually a Nazi killer hiding in the guise of a Jewish survivor. The Mossad kidnapped him, which they do frequently, and that's in the reality, took him to Israel for the trial, but as the trial progressed, his fake story began to fall apart. And he basically died in the glass booth, and it was a bit like a heart attack type thing, basically of regret and grief for the guilt he felt that he went through the concentration camp and lived while so many hundreds of thousands of millions of people died, that he created a new set of guilt to punish himself. And you've heard about people who, what they call cutting. Usually it's girls who cut themselves, and nobody really understands what that is, but it is some sense of internalized guilt is the latest understanding. They've been made to feel by their families, by their peers, that there's something wrong with them and they don't deserve to be alive. They don't kill themselves, they just torture themselves, they cut themselves. What drives people to do that? What sort of evil is the same evil that pushes people to set a cat on fire with lighter fluid is the same evil that talks a teenage girl, a 13-year-old girl, into cutting herself with a razor blade. All right, what is the power of evil that can turn people of enduring suffering and humility into the monsters of their nightmares? What is the power of evil that can turn professing Christians into the Romans that crucified their Savior? Is the evil psychopath truly evil, or only the victim of a brain abnormality? A genetically damaged individual wired by accident or carelessness to do wrong? A mother who drank or used drugs during a pregnancy? Unintentional exposure to a gene-altering radiation or medication? Is this what twists the brain of some of these evil people and turns them into terrible actors? Why is evil not more prevalent than it is? Or how prevalent is evil? We are not talking about a few aberrant leaders who starve, bombed, and abandoned thousands to a premature death. A few officials who control budgets and laws, deny housing, food, and health care to thousands who have no hope. We are talking about the masses of watchers who see and hear what is happening and do nothing, who sit on their hands, who smother their consciousness with platitudes. It's not my responsibility. I'm only one person. What can I do? They must deserve what is meted out to them in this great country of America. If you're poor, if you're sick, it's because you did it to yourself. It's because you didn't make enough money to pay for your health care. It's because you didn't work hard enough to make a stable life for your kids. It is the person's fault. and that is the prevailing rationale that's going on in the government now. In this sense, evil is very prevalent and seeming to grow more so. All around the world, the common man is protesting the coming of the common man and family from common countries who have been abused by other evil common men. All too common refrain: a country is torn apart by criminals in and out of government. The innocent seek safety in a faraway refuge, enduring unbelievable hardships in their journey, only to be met by identical, heartless citizens who refuse them safety and security. And they do this even when all common sense says they need new hands to pick, mow, sweep, and hammer. England just had a big demonstration yesterday. Thousands of people in the street protesting immigrants. They do not want immigrants. In England, 4 or 5 years ago, withdrew from the common market, withdrew from the European Union. Brexit, it was called. Their economy has slid to nothing. They cannot travel to Europe without getting a visa. It's complicated their lives. They don't have the help. It's just like we're doing. The dairy farms in Iowa and Utah don't have hands to work because the immigrants have all been kicked out. The reason your lettuce, $2.50 for a head of lettuce 2 days ago. $2.50 for a head of lettuce. That's because there aren't anybody to pick the lettuce and get it to us. We are basically kicking ourselves in the face. It's hard to believe that we can do that, but we are doing it every day. The people who mow the yards, who put the roofs on, who do all the manual labor in this country are being pushed out of the country. Most of them, 99%, are hardworking, law-abiding. They may have a fake Social Security number, but they don't even understand these people are American citizen collaborators, don't understand that a false Social Security number means you don't get any social benefits. You can't apply for Social Security. You can't apply for unemployment. The only thing you can get is if you're injured on the job putting shingles on somebody's roof and you fall off the roof, the hospital has to treat you. And if you don't have any money, you don't have to pay. That's the only benefit they get. And these people, our compatriots, they want to deny people hospital care of any kind. Do they really want to say that to my face? I mean, it's unbelievable. Okay, is demonic evil outdated, stuck in the year 2000 history of the Bible? Or is the unnameable, amorphous impetus for evil among us still? Is evil just a manifestation of broken genes and hideous upbringing? Or is it an animated force lurking just below the veneer of a consciousness waiting for its opportunity to take humanity by the throat? You have to decide. You have to choose every single day. Our last quote is from Mark 7, chapter 20 to 23. What comes out of a person is what defiles them, for it is from within. Out of a person's heart that evil thoughts come: sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, lewdness, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly. All these evils come from inside and defile a person. A quote from Mark. Comments? Questions? Any topic you want to hear next week? Lighter or another on the same level? All right, we'll see what happens. Now we have our offering. We are going to hear Abide With Me. That's a good one. extinguishing the chalice. Well, no, we'll do the closing hymn, number 11, O God of stars and sunlight. Perfect day for that. Sunlight, O God of night and day. Our closing, extinguishing the chalice, take this as an invitation to imagine how wide this world can be, to face the closing doors before us and move toward the opening windows in our lives. Take this as an invitation to remember a critical truth, that none of us have it all figured out, that we help one another to grow and change. Take this as an invitation to cross thresholds of challenge, not on our own, not for ourselves alone, but side by side, spirits rising and expanding together. Let us go now to share our gifts and truth with each other and this world. Right, postlude. It Could Happen to You. Another one by our new favorite composer, Jimmy Van Heusen. All right, that finishes our service at New Madison Universalist. Our obligatory horse picture is, everybody recognize where that's from? Lord of the Rings. You must not be Lord of the Rings fans or you would see that immediately. The ring race, the 9 ring race on their horses. The horses were not evil, but they were made to look evil to fit with the ring race. So they had all the buckles, all the metal, all the leather on them. And when they were chasing the heroes through the forest and across the stream, those horses truly looked evil, even though the horse itself had no choice in that whatsoever. Right. We'll leave a candle lit as we usually do and always do for those people who are not here, and hopefully we can maintain contact with them. And for anybody that needs anything, or I guess we'll leave a candle lit for all the ills of the world. It is the candle that we carry with us each day. All right, donuts and coffee.